What's going on? It's Brian with We Go To You Mechanics. We are out here. I've got a 1997 Mercury Sable. Customer complaint is that it is running rough and shaking when you put the it into drive. So I hooked up my scan tool. I'm not going to show you that part, but I hooked up my scan tool, and the only code that I got was a misfire on cylinder 2. So let's get right into it. All right, so some of the things that can cause a misfire could be spark plugs. It could be the wires going to the spark plug. It could be the coil that powers the wires going into the spark plug. It could be a fuel injector. And worst case scenario, it could be a dead cylinder due to internal engine damage. Let's hope it's not that. So let's get into the diagnostic. Now, I said it was a cylinder 2 misfire, which kind of sucks because this engine, 6-cylinder engine, we've got cylinder, let's see, cylinder 4, we got cylinder 5, and we got cylinder 6. So that means that 1, 2, and 3 is behind this intake manifold right here. And the only way to get to cylinder 2, which I said was the misfire, which that's cylinder 2 right there, the only way to get there is to remove this entire intake manifold. So let's go ahead and do that. I guess this video will be over how to diagnose a single cylinder misfire on this engine, and then also it'll be a video on how to remove the intake manifold. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the top of the air filter housing, and it's held on by a clip there and a clip there. And then also you'll want to remove loosen. There should be a bolt right there to get this intake hose off of the throttle body. You'll also want to remove that hose right there, and that hose right there, and that hose right there, as well as this connector right here. Once you pull it off, you'll notice that it's still connected by the mass airflow sensor. You don't really need to unhook that. You can if you want, but I just kind of put it to the side. Next thing you want to remove is the throttle wire cover, which is held on by that bolt. And then I believe there's another bolt, maybe. Yeah, this bolt right here. That bolt right there, and that bolt right there. All right, so now we want to remove the throttle cables. And how you'll do this is this one, I believe, just kind of pries up like that, and it comes off. And then this other one, you'll want to actually rotate the throttle, and this should come out. Get you a pocket screwdriver, and that should pry out. It'll lift up on this wire, and it'll come out just like that. Also get you the spring, remove the spring right here. Set that aside. Now that we got the cables loose, we can undo the mount for the cables, which is 2 8mm bolts right here and right here. Next thing you'll want to do is unplug this connector right here. And then there's also, I think this is the throttle position sensor. This throttle position sensor will need to be disconnected. The connector is back here. All you do is you press on the clip and you pull back. Same thing with this one. All right, so there's 2 hoses behind the intake manifold that you'll need to remove So I'm going to show you how to get to those hoses. I'll be back here in this right-hand corner. And you can see them right. See if I can get you a good shot. Right there, there's two hoses. One is a vacuum line. Another one, I believe, is a coolant passage. I'm not sure. But the vacuum line and the coolant hose needs to be removed. Okay, so I lied. That one that I thought was a coolant line is actually another vacuum hose, and it leads to right here. So an easier way, instead of having to remove it from behind the intake, is to remove it from right here. So when you pull the whole intake out, the hose will come with it. All right, now it's time to disconnect the EGR valve from the intake. You'll want to pull this vacuum hose off right there. And it's got 4 bolts. Make sure you use WD-40 or some sort of lubricant to get those 4 bolts off. It's 2 nuts and 2 bolts. All right, so you'll want to be careful whenever you remove these bolts. There's a gasket behind this EGR valve. Now, a lot of times it'll fall down. Just make sure you grab it. If the gasket is all crumbly and dry rotting away, you'll want to replace it. If it still looks good, you can reuse it. All right, next move is to remove the purge valve right there on the left side. And you don't need to disconnect everything from it. You're just going to remove these 2 bolts that go into the side of the intake manifold. Right there, those 2 bolts. And then that purge valve you can set it aside. Just like that. It comes right off. Now you'll want to take, these are the vacuum lines right here, and if you follow it along, you'll find that it's clipped on to the back of the manifold right there. You'll want to remove that clip. You can either get a clip popper underneath it and pop it up out, or you can get a pocket screwdriver in there. I'll see if I can show you one-handed. And stick it in here. And pop it up just like that. And then that hose will come free. All right, now that's pretty much everything that needs to come off the manifold in order for it to come out. There's still going to be like hoses and different connectors probably attached to the back side of the manifold or underneath somewhere. When you start pulling it out, you'll feel it tugging. That's the hard part. Once you pull it out, I'll try to show you, but it's going to be hard to do it one-handed. But once you pull it out, you'll pretty much have to reach your arm up underneath it, and it's all feel from there. All right, so now we're going to take the bolts out for the upper intake manifold. It's going to be right there, there, right there, there, and I believe that is it. All right, so we got the bolts out. The intake manifold is free to move. There's still going to be some hoses holding it down. So if you're replacing this manifold, you're going to want to remove underneath the throttle body. There's going to be a hose right there. Let me see if I can get a flashlight on it real quick so you can see it. There's a hose right there that needs to come off. Also, this hose right here needs to come off as well. Right there and right there, to get this intake manifold completely up and out. But since we're not replacing the actual manifold, we're just going to be checking out this ignition issue. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to leave those connected, and then we're going to lift this manifold up and kind of move it to the side. So I'm going to do this off camera because I don't want to break anything in case something else is connected. All right, so basically what I did was just kind of rotated the manifold and set it down. That way it gives me access to the back side of the engine where the other spark plugs are. So just like I told you, the front is going to be 4, 5, and 6, but the back is going to be 1, 2, and 3. So we got cylinder 1 right there, cylinder 2 right there, and cylinder 3 right there. The problem child is cylinder 2. So we're going to continue our diagnosis on cylinder 2. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this boot out and then pull that plug out and inspect the plug. All right, here's the plug for cylinder number 2. As you can tell, it looks pretty bad. It's not too bad, but bad enough to cause a misfire. I went ahead and recommended spark plugs to the customer. We replaced them and the misfire is gone. But that's not what I want this video to be about. I want this video to be more about replacing the intake manifold and gasket. So we have a happy customer. The misfire's gone, new spark plugs. If you're wondering how to put the intake manifold back on, just do everything you've already done in reverse. And thank you for watching We Go to You Mechanics. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.